Learning English but find it difficult, confusing, even mysterious? Are you an English teacher but find English grammar easier to use than to explain? Well, don't worry. On this show, I'll be your language detective. I'll answer your questions about the English language and help you solve these English mysteries. It's Hard-Boiled English Live. Hello everybody, welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. I'm your host, Paul Duke. I'm an English instructor, tutor, coach, and language detective. Welcome to the show. We are streaming live from Vancouver, Canada on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, FC2, Twitch, Dailymotion, and shortly we'll be going over to stream live on Bilibili, but there's been some delays in their technology. But that's exciting because it will introduce the show into the Chinese audience. The format of this show is simple. On this show, I answer your questions about the English language right here, live. I don't know everything, but I love trying to answer questions about this crazy language. We've also got a special guest joining us a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. To start with, guys, I'd love to meet you. So in the comment thread, please say hello and tell us where you're watching from. It's always exciting to know what countries our viewers are in. And usually there's quite a range from Nepal to South America to Europe. We've got viewers everywhere. It's really exciting. We began this show last September in the height of the pandemic lockdowns and restrictions. And it's been an exciting run and growing ever since. So thank you for that, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm also the host of the YouTube channel, Teacher Paul's Hard-Boiled English. And on that channel, you can find my flagship series called English Weirdness. And English Weirdness is a series, 30-minute episodes. And in each one, we explore a strange or irregular or even contradictory part of the English grammar lexicon. We use animations, dramatizations, and some not bad acting on my part. And it's made entirely with myself and my students. So check that out. As always, I am also available for private lessons. So if you need private help, tutoring, preparing for exams, writing essays, please contact me at teacherpaul.ca. You can find out about costs, services, types of tutoring that we do, and you can contact me through the website. So check that out if you want to learn more about me and my services as your private Teacher Paul. In the meantime, I'm available right here live, so I'm at your disposal. Now we're going to get to some questions in a few minutes. I've already got a few questions lined up because you can also connect with me on social media at Hard-Boiled English on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, of course, LinkedIn. Gosh, I'm all over the place. If you name it, I've probably got a profile on that social media platform. Anyways, connect, send me your English questions, especially if you can't watch the show live. If you watch the recording later, send me a question in advance and I'll get it on the show and you can watch it whenever you want. Because after the show, I always post the recordings on the YouTube channel. So you can go back and review any of our live shows in full. Okay, so let's see who's watching. Let's see who's joined us so far. I'd like to say hello to Tirath. Tirath is from Nepal. We have Bargain Betty 99 joining us from the moon. I think she's the farthest away viewer. We have Nadim watching. Nadim, I think you're in Bangladesh, right? Can't remember. We have Tina joining us from Slovakia. Welcome, Tina. Thanks for joining. We have Akash from Nepal with the same family name as Tirath. I wonder if you're related. Are you related, Akash? Are you family of Tirath? Is there someone before Tirath? I saw something. Oh, no, okay. Well, welcome to the show, guys. Great to see you all. Let's get right to our word of the day. Now, every week I like to introduce a new adjective. Why would I do that, you might ask? Well, in my experience working with students, they use the adjective good far too often, and it gets a little boring. Plus, good is entirely subjective. Everyone has their own idea of what good means or what bad means. So every week I'd like to give you a new adjective that you can use to add a little more specific meaning when you mean something is positive or good. And today's word is sensational. Sensational is one of my favorite words. I like sensational. Sensational is an adjective, and it means extremely good or exciting, causing great surprise or interest. Now, what would be sensational? Well, maybe a fantastic movie you've seen, maybe a delicious meal you've had, although it might be too strong to say that's sensational. Maybe you watched on television a rocket launching from SpaceX or NASA. That is sensational looking. It's very exciting. But there's this element of surprise, too, when you weren't expecting something to be so good. So I'm going to give you two examples. The concert was sensational. So I went to a concert to see a performance of music, and I didn't know what to expect. I had never heard that band playing, and they were fantastic. They were sensational. They were so good. The piano player was sensational. He was a sensational piano player. Okay, he was a sensational pianist. So it's an adjective, so it should come before a noun, right? Or on the other side of a be verb. The concert was sensational. So sensational here is an adjective complement, giving us information about the concert. So what I'd like you to do now, guys, is you try to make a sentence. In the comment box, write a sentence using the adjective sensational, okay? In the meantime, I'll say, Nadim has clarified for me. He is in Pakistan. Welcome, welcome, Nadim. We have Jose Luis Hernandez from Colombia. I was in Colombia with my dear wife 2 years ago, Jose. I visited Bogota and Cartagena and had a wonderful time. Beautiful, beautiful country, fantastic people, wonderful visit, and I'm coming back. Akash says, yes, you are right. I'm brother of Tirath. Very nice to meet you, Akash. We also have Lam. Lam is watching from Vietnam. Welcome, Lam. Nice to see you again. We also have Yoshishige from Japan. Thank you for joining us, Yoshishige. It's always great to see your name pop up. Okay, Tirath has an example sentence for us using the adjective sensational. He says, I like sensation in movies, so I love sensational movies. Great. Sensational movies. Movies that are really exciting or surprising. You didn't expect that to happen. Great. Who else has a nice sentence? We have Nadim's sentence. It is a sensational moment when I face new people. Okay, great. Just make sure you get that T in there. Sensation. Sensational. Pronounced sensational. Okay. We have Dai Perez joining us from Ecuador. Great. Look at all the countries that are representing here. It's fantastic. Jose, 2 años. Wow. 2 years ago. I only stayed for 6 days. Short visit, 6 days in Colombia. 2 years ago, 2019. I love Colombia. Fantastic place. Oops. Yes. Okay. Very nice. I'm just going to send a message to our guest. Paola, if you're watching, please say hello in the comment box. And I'm going to just say hello to you. Okay. We have Oscar joining us. Oscar, we have Paola joining us. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for joining us, guys. Oscar, what country are you in? I think it's Mexico. Great. Yeah, that's right. Okay, Paola, we're going to send you a link, so follow the steps that it asks you to do. And in the meantime, anyone else want to try making a sentence with this wonderful adjective? Sensational. Who can make a sentence with sensational? Oscar, are you ready to try? Oscar, please make a sentence using sensational. Let's see if your English skills are still sharp. Who else is there? If you're just joining us, guys, please say hello in the comment box and tell us what country you're in. Oh, Di, you're very nice. I know you're just saying that to practice, but very nice of you. You are sensational, Di. Thank you for joining our show. Without watchers and viewers, we don't have a show. So it's wonderful to meet you guys. I'm happy to be here with you. I look forward to this every week. It's wonderful. Media people create sensation in the news, so they deliver sensational news. Fantastic. The last night concert was sensational. Yes, Jessica's with us. Jessica Borja. Jessica, what country are you in again? Can you refresh my memory? I think Mexico. Di says, JJ. That's true. This is interesting, guys. Di says JJ, which I think means laughter, right? It's interesting to see how people spell laughter in different languages in English. In Canada, if someone is writing laughter, usually they say ha ha ha, H-A-H-A. And I think in Brazil, if we have any Brazilians there, tell us how to do it. But in Mexico, you do it with JJ, meaning ha 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 ha. It's so interesting. I think Brazilians use K, 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 K-E, K-E. I had a sensational year in Canada back in 2015. Wow, great. I'm glad it's a great memory for you, Oscar. I think we shared a few good times together. Played some paintball. Unfortunately for me, my days of teaching English while using paintball are over. My legs can't keep up with my willingness. So Oscar's telling us Mexico is ja ja ja, meaning laughter. Tirath, in Nepal, maybe you can help us here. Okay. Tirath says ha 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 ha. Okay, interesting. Talk about vocabulary, right? How do we spell laughter in your country? So cool. Okay, guys, I'm going to clear away the word of the day. That is an example of words to use instead of good. Words to use instead of good. Okay. Hopefully you're enjoying the background music for a moment while I clear the board. I'm going to answer a couple of questions that have been sent to me. There's one about home. Let's pop this one up. This was sent to us or asked last week, but we ran out of time. We couldn't answer it. What is the difference between housework and homework? Well, housework usually means cleaning the house. Cleaning, maybe even fixing if there's small repairs to do, if you have a broken light. That's housework. Cleaning, washing dishes, laundry, generally cleaning and maintenance of your home, your house. Homework refers to studying, if you're a student, or maybe paperwork, if you're a professional. You may not realize this, but when you're a teacher, you have a lot of homework. You teach in the class during the day. Tirith knows what I'm talking about. You teach in the class during the day, and then you take quizzes home at night to mark, or essays to mark. Or sometimes you have to prepare for the next class. So there's always homework for teachers. My sister works in the law business, and she always has homework. Okay? So that's the difference between that and that. And I think some of the confusion comes from these two words, guys. House and home. A lot of people get these confused. So I want to talk quickly about the differences between those STEM words. And before I do that, I want to remind you of the magic triangle. When we talk about language, we're always talking about form, meaning, and use. Right? Language works with all three dimensions all the time. Form is the structure or the grammar. Meaning is the idea behind it, the meaning of the concept. And use is the way we use it in conversation, in writing, how we use it in the real world. And sometimes the difference between two words is just form. Okay? Sometimes the meaning is different. Sometimes parts of them are the same. I'll give you an example. House. What is a house? Well, a house is a type of building. It's a type of building. Now, I don't live in a house. I live in an apartment, right? On the second floor of a towering building, sort of. Not that high, but it's stacked. Residence is stacked. A house is a single unit, standing alone. That's a house. What's a home? A home is where you live. Okay? Home is where you live. Where you live, share your life with family, right? Maybe even grow up. And why am I saying that? Well, it doesn't matter if you grow up in a house or an apartment, right? High in the sky. It doesn't matter. That's a house, that's an apartment, but both can be a home if that's where you live, if that's where you grow up, if that's where your family is, if that's where you live your life. That's your home. It could be an apartment, it could be a house, it could be a tent, right? If you live in the mountains, maybe you live in a tent. Doesn't matter. That's a home, right? Now, unfortunately, in some parts of the world, including Canada, some people are homeless. They don't have a home, but maybe they live in a tent or something even less comfortable. But it becomes their home because it's where they live. So this is not necessarily a grammar or form issue. It's related to the meaning and the way we use it, because we attach emotion to this idea of home. There's emotion attached to it. It's not just direct meaning. A home can be anywhere. A home can be where you have your memories, where you love to be. I've lived in many apartments in my life, and some of them weren't really home. I just lived there temporarily. I didn't feel like I belonged there. I didn't set up. I didn't spend a lot of time there. So I wouldn't call those my home. The place I live in now is my home. I've lived here a long time. I live my life here. The other thing is, when we use these words alone, house is a noun. Okay? It's just a noun. I live in a house. It's a sensational house. Okay? It's a noun. Home is different. Home can be a noun, right? I'm in my home. Here it's a noun because I have the pronoun my home here. It can also be an adverb. And this is where it gets very confusing for people. It can be an adverb of direction. I'm walking. I'm walking. Oh, Paul, where are you walking? I'm walking north. I'm walking south. I'm walking up the stairs. I'm walking down the stairs. I'm walking home. I am home. She went home. In all cases, you'll see that this is an adverb. That's why there's no preposition. Okay, there's no preposition here. Yeah, oh, sorry. She went home. I'm off the grid. She went home. Okay? Not she went to home, right? She went in the direction of home. It's an adverb of direction. And adverbs don't get prepositions. So that can be very confusing, the difference between home and house. House is just a noun, right? That's the form. It's a noun. House is a noun. Home can be a noun form or an adverb form. They both can share the meaning of the place you live, right? And we use them differently. We use one, where is it? House. Oh, sorry, I didn't do that. I live in a house. Okay, that's a noun, right? So we can have a preposition and an article. That's a noun. It's the place I live in. So the meaning is similar to I'm in my home. And there's overlap in meaning, right? The place you live, the place you sleep. There's an overlap in meaning, but the form is different. This one can be a noun or an adverb, and this one can only be a noun. Okay? So hopefully that clears that question up. I'm going to get to one more question before our guest comes on. So I'd like to just say hello to anyone I've missed. Who else is in the chat box? Who have I missed? No, everyone's here. Okay, great. Going to clear the board, guys. If you're a teacher, get your Expo whiteboard cleaner. They don't sponsor the show yet, but I have sent them a proposal. So hopefully they'll sponsor our show because I'm always promoting this. It's a great product. One of the great things about it is it clears your boards thoroughly, cleanly, and it dries very quickly. So you can almost immediately begin writing. Okay. Let's see our questions. What do we have? Simple, compound, or complex sentence. Okay. I'll tell you what, let's hold off on that one until next week because I don't see our friend who asked it on the chat box. Let's get our guest lined up. Paola, if you're out there, Paola, get yourself linked onto the stream and standing by, and we'll bring you on shortly. We have Facebook user with us saying hello. I'm not sure what your name is, but welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, Facebook user. Yeah. Okay, guys. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome today a very special guest. She's a former student of mine. And when I met this young lady a few years back, I'll have to ask her which year it was. She was very ambitious and she wanted to pursue a career in the fashion business. And I really admired her spirit. Since then, she has gone on to study and produce such amazing stylings and designs, as you might see here in these photos. She is originally from Mexico. I think you'll be impressed with her English skill, although she'll tell you that her English has not been so good lately, but I don't agree with that. Anyways, we're going to get to know her. She's a former student of mine, a wonderful person, and my special guest for tonight. So please welcome to the show, Miss Paola. Let's bring.
Hi.
Oh. Hi, Paola. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm nervous.
So great to see you. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm nervous too. I'm always nervous.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's going well. Yeah, we've got a fair number of people watching tonight, so that's always nice. It's always interesting. I'm sure you've seen how many different countries they're watching from.
Yes, that's very interesting.
Pretty cool.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Because I bet it's from people you've never heard before, which is great because it's always nice to meet new people, even if it's online. Mm-hmm. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think that's one of the great things about this technology, streaming, internet, all this stuff. Especially this year, I've been able to meet all kinds of interesting people online. But you and I met in person years ago. So I'm going to ask you a few questions and let the audience get to know you a little bit. Let's go back in time to when you were young, long before you and I met.
Okay.
So tell us where you grew up and what your first experience learning English was.
Okay. I grew up in Mazatlan, Sinaloa. I was born in Culiacan, but I did grow up in Mazatlan. It was always very interesting because it's such a touristy place. So you always encounter people from the US, Canada, a lot of Canadians, especially. And you learn English from a very young age, since I can remember. But I think it was never, you wouldn't, I think as a child, you don't take it that seriously because you're not sure when you're going to use it or if it's going to be useful.
It's just a school subject, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you just want to get it over with. I personally always enjoyed it. I really liked it. I found it easy. And for me, what I want, the reason why I was so interested is because movies, especially movies, they're usually from the US, so they're always in English. And when you go to the movies here in Mexico, it's always like with subtitles. And I always remember thinking that I wanted to be able to watch movies without the subtitles. And I even remember my parents were like always on me about wanting to watch movies without the subtitles, and I was not able to because I didn't know the English, the language that well. So that was one of the reasons why I got more interested. And I remember I would read things in English, like books, or even like watch movies without understanding a thing, but I just wanted to watch it because I thought it was beautiful.
Sure.
And that's when I thought, you know what, English is such a important language in the world in general. It's one of the most, I think even in Mexico it's really important to speak it because we're neighbors, right? So so I think that's one of the reasons why I got into it. And it came easy for me because I think when I got to ELS and I did a test to see which level I was supposed to go in, I think first they put me in level 9, if I don't remember correctly.
And it was too easy for you.
And then they put me in level 10 after a week.
Yeah, I remember that.
I do remember they told me, you know what, I think you have a better level than for where you were put in. So that's what happened.
So movies interested you when you were young.
Yes.
I think a lot of children are interested in movies.
A lot.
And that sort of introduced you to a larger world and the world of English.
Yes.
And at what age did your interest in fashion appear? Did that happen with movies too? Did you enjoy movies that somehow featured fashion?
I think so. I've always liked it, but I do remember very clearly when the movie The Devil Wears Prada came out. It's just,
Yeah.
I have this really clear memory when I was watching it with my parents, and it was just the intro of the movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but
Yeah.
at the
Oh, yeah.
beginning of the
It's fun.
movie, there's these beautiful girls just like dressing and going to work. And I remember seeing that, and I told my parents, that's what I want to do when I grow up. That's what I want to look
that's
like.
cool.
I love that part of it. It's more of a fantasy, because in reality it's hard work. It's nothing glamorous about it. It's glamorous, like what you see is very glamorous, but that's not what it is at all. But I do remember that very clearly, and I was very young. I must have been like 12, I think, or 11. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I didn't take it seriously until after ELS. Actually, when I got to Canada, one of the reasons why I went was because I wasn't ready to choose a career, and I was gonna go into business administration. I
remember that.
I was set for that. Yeah, and I think some part of me knew that I was not sure and that I needed time. Thankfully, I was lucky enough that my parents could help me with that and to give me the time, and also to be able to, experience the time I had in ELS, because it was amazing. And it was during those 3 months that I was in ELS that I decided that that's what I wanted to do, and that I wanted to do something that I was gonna be enjoying it every day for the rest of my life. That was the main thing. So
for those viewers who aren't familiar, ELS is the name of the language school I was working at that Paola attended in Canada. So what year was it that you came to Canada?
2014.
2014, right.
Yeah.
I do remember that vividly. When you came there, you were talking about business administration, and we shared a class in essay writing, and you wrote an essay about fashion. And it was really clear to me.
Did I?
That's what you wrote. You wrote a research paper about the fashion business, and how it was connected to feminism.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. Because
I
remember it was about feminism, and the fun part about that was because I did two with you. I did two essays.
That's right.
The first one was about the Holocaust, and the second one was about like fashion related and feminism and all that.
Very different topics.
Very different topics. And the funny part was that I got a higher grade on the Holocaust than the second one. And I remember you told me that I talked too much on the presentation, and I just kept going I could go on forever. So,
but it was very, very clear that was a passion that you had, not business and not the Holocaust. Certainly, you were very passionate about fashion. Sometimes when you do something like a presentation goes over the limit, okay, so to be fair with all the students, you have to lose a point or two, but it also indicates something more important than any grade, which is you clearly have a lot to say about that topic.
Yeah.
It was very clear to me at that time that fashion was your direction. There was no doubt about it. But it's funny you mentioned that, because like a lot of people, myself included at different stages of my life, we have an idea of what we want to do, but we kind of don't let ourselves do it, or we don't give ourselves permission to do it or try it, or we're afraid, or we believe it won't lead to anything.
Yeah, well, in my case, I think what happened with me was that I let myself get influenced by other people's opinion. And especially here in Mexico, like in my career, I think it was more the idea of following a fashion career was more accepted, at least among people I knew. And I did have a few people here telling me that it was never going to lead to something, and that I would probably starve, and that it was just never going to happen. I was going to end up just being a seamstress. And that obviously scared me a lot, because I wanted
people are always willing to give you the practical advice, right? That won't make money. You have no chance of that. Too much competition.
Sometimes I understand, because people worry about you, and they want you to do well and to be, good financially. So I understand that. And the thing is too, people don't really know the industry that much, and they don't know all these opportunities that are within. So I think that's also a very important topic, that to be well informed about, what different careers. Even it's a fairly new one too, because I feel like people are getting more and more into it. But the reality is that it's a very new career. So people are still not taking it that seriously, and also we don't live in one of the fashion capitals in the world. Like Canada is not one either. So I think that's another very important point to look at.
That's a great point. In fact, even though we live in the age of the internet, a lot of these sort of unusual career worlds, namely the arts, especially the arts, where people warn us against it. Partially it's because it doesn't exist where those people who are warning us live. So, when I was a child growing up in Ontario, for example, I wanted to make movies. Well, nobody seemed to know how you did that. So there's just a common belief that the people in the world who do that must be geniuses, they're special, and they live in a mountaintop in Mount Olympus in the ancient. We have this we mythologize these people.
You have to be gifted, or otherwise you're not.
But even if you're gifted, where does this stuff happen? And the truth is, even in the digital age, these things do happen in a community. And if you really want to get into it, you got to go there still physically. If you want to be in movies, you've got to be in New York or Hollywood. If you want to be in fashion, probably New York, Paris, Milan, those kind of places, right? Because that's where you meet people and you get opportunities.
Well, yes, that is true. But also, I didn't used to think that here in Guadalajara, where I live right now, I didn't used to think that there were people that share the same kind of ideals that I had, or career paths
you hadn't
that
found
I wanted.
your group yet.
It for me was impossible, and it didn't exist. And I did find it. It's there. It's always there. Even in Vancouver, Toronto, wherever you go, it's there. It's just smaller. It is smaller, but that's the beauty of it too, because you are putting your little, you're contributing to this new group of people that should be growing. Because it is important. Like if you think about it, fashion is one of the biggest industries in the world. It's one of the biggest money-making industries in the world, because you wear it every day, every single day.
Everyone does.
It's like, and if you think about it, it's like, well, there's money. There's a lot of money involved, and it is hard. It's really, really hard. It's very competitive, but it's there. It's always there, and the community is always there. You just have to look for it and look for your people. And all those kind of people, even people that are not related to your field. Like I always love to meet people that are in the film industry, that are in even like the food industry, and because those are the people that are going to nourish you, and that are going to give you always like more and new things, and that's very important to also get to know different kinds of people, because if you stick to your same bubble, that's just never going to happen for you. Like you're just going to stay right where you are.
Nothing's going to come to you and say, here, right?
No.
You got to go make it happen.
You just got to say yes to things and to new experiences. It might not be what you're looking for at the moment, but eventually I always think that it's going to lead to something you are looking for, always, because you're being open, and it's just going to, it is going to come to you, but you have to put a lot of effort, and you have to give your part.
And be ready when the opportunity comes to take advantage of it, right?
And don't be scared, and just don't be scared to jump in. And I think that's very important. And I think a lot of people get very scared, and it's such a shame sometimes, because I meet a lot of people that have great talent and that they have a lot of ambition, but just for one thing or another, they always take a step back. And if that's what you really, really want, that's completely fine. You know, like if that's where you're happy, that's fine. But if you're not happy, if you're not satisfied, I think that's always that's always gonna be you're just never gonna be fully satisfied if you don't keep looking for that.
Yeah. I think what people underestimate sometimes is if they make a decision not to do what they really are passionate about, they think, oh, I'll just go for the safe job. I'll work, in this job with a guaranteed future. What they may underestimate is how long they're going to end up doing that job, right?
Yes.
Whether you do the job of your dreams or pursue it, or do the job that's not your first choice, whatever the case, you're going to end up doing that for a lot of years.
Every
And
day.
it's going to catch up with you. If you're not happy with it, it's going to catch up with you. And that unhappiness can really affect your life. Whereas if you're pursuing what you're interested in and you're passionate about, at first, there's challenges. But every day will feel good because you're doing what you like.
Exactly.
So the happiness thing is there. And of course, I always say this, if you love doing it, you'll do it a lot. If you do it a lot, you'll be good at it. If you're good at it, someone will pay you to do it.
Yeah.
And all of that is in the direction of your passions. So I want to ask you this. After you spent some time in a language school, and you decided to go into the fashion business, what was your next step? Because I think you and I lost contact around that time.
Like, you mean like right after ELS? Like,
right after studying English.
So how it happened is I was not even fully set on design. I was still on like the marketing aspect, the business part of it, because for me it made more sense at the time, and it just made sense because I thought that's what was gonna give me more money.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in a school called Blanche McDonald. It was right on Robson. And
it's a fashion school, right?
It's
all about the fashion
school.
business.
They have design and marketing. They have both programs, and I enrolled in
English.
Yes, in English. It's awesome because they were all Canadians. I love that. I think in my classroom we were like 20 people, and there were only it was just me and another guy that we were from elsewhere, which I love that. I love that because I still keep in touch with those friends. So that's awesome.
Nice.
Oh, so there I enrolled in the fashion marketing diploma. That was a year long, and right after I just had a feeling, like an itchy feeling, that I liked marketing. I understood marketing, and it came easy for me, but I wasn't sure. So I was like, what would happen if I enroll in design? Like, what's the worst that can happen? If I hate it, I just drop off. So I enrolled in the Art Institute. The reason of why that happened, it was because it was a longer program, which allowed me to stay longer in Canada.
Okay.
It was a year and a half long. It was also a diploma, but it was like a professional degree diploma. It was like worth a bachelor's, you could say, because it was a lot of work. And so I graduated from that, and then I came back, and I was interested in finishing my studies. I wanted to also, because I realized that fashion here and fashion there was very different. Like just the vocabulary, it was completely different. The system for pattern making, the system for sewing, the words, it was a whole different world. And I realized that I had to study. I could have done it on my own, but the thing is, I know that when you enroll in a school, that's your opportunity to meet people, and the people in the school are going to connect you to new people. So I thought that was my priority, because I just wanted to know people and connections and get more experience. I wanted an internship. I wanted a job, and just anything that could give me more experience. So when I enrolled here in the school, that's where I got my internship, which is where I work right now.
Okay.
With, really
So
good
the school
partner.
is in Guadalajara.
Guadalajara.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like one of the two schools in Guadalajara.
Nice.
I don't know what's wrong with my light. Sorry.
Lighting people, where are you?
um,
Where's your lighting department?
oh, it's right here. Help. So yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
Special effects.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, that didn't work.
Sensational lighting effects.
Yeah. So that was that. That was turn it off, I think.
That's dramatic.
That's better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what happened after ELS.
Nice. And so now you're working in the fashion world.
I am.
What's happening now, and where are you heading?
Well, right now I'm working with a designer. I've been with him for, I think, a little longer than 2 years now. I love it there. I mean, people I work with are very talented, and I have learned a lot from them, like a lot.
Great.
And I've been able to do a lot of different things, which I love. I get to do pretty much a little bit of everything, which is
great.
Awesome.
So it's still
you
kind of
learn
an
a lot.
education.
Yeah, it never ends. Honestly, it never ends. Even if one day I'm on my own and doing my own stuff, I think I'm always going to be learning. And it's just, you never stop, because well, if you stop, you get stuck, I think. And there's always new things. So right now I'm really happy there. We'll see. There's a new project going on with. She used to be my boss in Vancouver. Actually, I used to work in a shoe store in Vancouver for 2 years, and that's where I met her name is Anila, and she's now like trying to get me involved in a project, which I'm very excited about. So we'll see how that goes. It's involved with fashion and everything, so I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to jinx it, and also it's not fully like there yet. So
sure,
but I'm very excited, and I'm gonna be working really hard on that. Hopefully,
that's great.
It'll happen. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And when I talk to you, I don't feel like your English skill has diminished at all since I saw you in person last time. Seriously? So I'm curious about, how do you maintain that? Do you speak occasionally English, or every day a little bit? How does this work for you?
I think every day a little bit, because Oscar and I speak English a lot. Not very well English. Like it's not the most refined, perfect English. Like it's a really silly way we speak English. But I think that keeps my brain thinking in English. Because sometimes I'm always correcting him, which I think helps me a lot too. And
I'm sure he likes that.
He does not. I think he hates it. Also, I think I try to read as much as I can in English. Like books, I read a lot of articles. I try to keep everything in English. Every time I watch a show or a movie, I always watch it with English subtitles.
Nice.
Just to keep reading it, because I find myself that when I stop reading it, I lose the grammar. I lose the right way to speak it, because otherwise, if I just listen to it, I think it becomes a little broken. And also, what's been helping me a lot is that I've been talking with people from Canada too, more often now than before. So at the beginning, there was a time when I was very lost. And but I think once I get going again, and once I start to think in English every time I can, it really helps me.
It comes
So
back, right?
it comes back. It comes right back. And
Yeah.
I try to, when I'm watching someone speak English, like on my phone or a video or whatever, I try to mouth the words with that person, if that makes sense. Because
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's a really funny. I don't know. I just do it like intuitively. Like I don't even
Yeah.
think about it anymore. So I think that's helped
Great
me a
word,
lot.
intuitively.
Yeah.
Great adverb.
Intuitively.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just do it, and I think that's helped me a lot. Reading is key. You have to
Yeah,
keep
reading is
reading
important.
it. Yeah, and listening to it too, I think.
Yeah.
And
I meet so many students who want to improve just their speaking skill. And they say, teacher, what should I do? And I always say the same thing. I say, well, obviously you have to speak, but guess
yeah,
what? You should read also. And they say, reading? Yeah, because the written word gives you a visual record of the structure of that sentence.
yeah,
That goes into your brain.
and also the
It comes
context,
out
I
as
think.
speech.
What
Yeah.
really helped me, I did this a lot. I used to, when I was in Vancouver, like at the beginning, I used to watch movies that I would know by heart
Yeah.
and that I've watched many times, and I will watch it in English with English subtitles because I
Yeah.
already knew the context and I knew
Yeah.
what was going on. So that helped me a lot,
Yeah.
because
I
yeah,
like
it
that
just,
technique a lot.
yeah,
But
it's very
it
useful.
works with movies. It works with anything with a story, including books. Because
Yeah.
if you've read it, if like, for example, if you read a book in your childhood in Spanish and then read the English translation, you wouldn't notice the story because you know what happens. So the
Mhm.
drama is gone.
Yeah,
Instead, you notice these other things like the language.
exactly. You pay
It's just like a
attention.
movie. When you know what happens in the movie, you're not caught up in the drama. Instead, you notice the lighting or the music or the
Right.
performance or something
hmm
else.
hmm
You pick up different details.
You do. Yeah, exactly.
I
That's
think that's a
exactly
great
what
tip.
it is. Yeah, it is. And for me, what really your class really helped me with, I think, well, everything in general, but with grammar, because I would spend hours at the library with your with your essays. Like Oscar can tell you, you can ask him. I would I would blow him off to go to the library. Well, because
Sorry,
it was
Oscar.
so interesting. It was so interesting. Like
Yeah.
what was really funny for me. It was that I got to a point where my grammar in English was better than Spanish.
That's
Because
interesting.
well, it's yeah. Because when Spanish, which is my first language, oh, it's back.
There we go.
um, Spanish, which is my first language, because you've been learning from such a young age, and then you just pick up words that are not
Yeah.
grammatically correct, maybe,
Yeah.
or they
You
don't
don't have that
exist.
structure or the context
You don't think
necessarily.
about it, right? It's
Yeah.
just there somewhere, and you don't think if it's right or wrong. You just
Yeah.
do it. But when you learn a new language and you learn it from zero, and you're learning it correctly, um, that's I think that's very beautiful because, well, you even learn you can learn a better English than English speakers, I think.
hmm Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
I
Oh, there's a
think
lot
that's
of
it.
bad English speakers who are born with the language.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
You can learn a lot of bad habits, living in Canada or living in the US or
hmm
Britain or Australia. You can pick up a lot of bad habits from
Yeah,
poor English speakers, no doubt.
right. Yeah. And I think that's why it was very important to take classes, because I could
Yeah.
have easily just gone to Canada and just like learn it from the streets.
hmm
But if you don't understand it, I think that
Yeah.
when you learn new things, that you're not going to be able to structure it or
Yeah.
to use it. So I
Even
think that
someone
was,
in Canada, if you met someone who speaks a lot of slang and jargon and it sounds like a terrible English,
yeah.
it's also true that when they were children, they learned the correct way to speak English. They've just thrown it aside
Yeah.
and gone for the slang, but they know what's behind it.
Yeah,
So
they
they
do.
can be creative with the language. Whereas if you're a
Exactly.
learner, you you're only looking at that surface. So I've met a lot of students who start using a bunch of slang and they have no idea what it means. They just think it sounds cool.
Right.
Well, that can get you into trouble.
or you use it just
or
because people are using it, or or
yeah,
you just learn in one
and
context and then you try to use it in
yeah,
a different context and it just doesn't work.
doesn't work. You don't have the foundation to be flexible or creative with something. I
Right.
think that's true of all skills. You need to learn the foundations first, fundamentals, and then when you get to a mastery of those, you can start being creative.
Yeah,
English is a very flexible and creative language,
it
but you need the
is.
foundation first
Yeah,
before you can start playing with it.
and I think that applies to everything. I think
Yeah,
that applies
absolutely.
to anything, like even fashion. It applies to fashion. Like you have to learn the basics to pattern making,
Yeah.
so you can just let yourself go and make different things. And it applies for everything. It's very
Lots of
important.
people want to be, an original and an innovator and a disruptor, and they want to change the world, but they don't want to spend the time learning the basics or
Yeah,
learning what already came before you.
yeah, and
That's important. If you want to do something creative and new, you better find out what came before you, so you're not just repeating something that's old, you're
right,
actually being creative. It seems like
exactly.
fashion's like that too, right?
Yeah, and
Before
you
you
have
can develop
to.
your own voice and your own style, you've got to master the foundations. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's 100% correct. I think you have to master it. Like you said, you have to do it at a point where you don't even think about it, and so
Right.
that you can start thinking about how to break it and how to come
Right.
up with different things. You also have to be very patient. I think
Yes.
one of the most difficult things for me was to be patient because I can be very impatient.
Yeah.
And I just want quick results, and I just
We
want
all
to
do.
get things done. So
Yeah.
I think that's key. You have to, because at one point or another you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to be able to go forward. And that
Yeah.
applies to their English, design, anything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's
Um,
very interesting.
it's great hearing all these insights from your experiences, Paula. Um, what I'd like to do now is just see if anyone has any questions for you. And I
Sure.
see one here from Oscar. Oscar is saying it's just one word that I have problems with the pronunciation. I wonder what that word is, Oscar. Could you tell us? And
I
let's
know what
see
word
what we
that
can do.
is.
See if we
For
can help
some
you out.
reason, for some reason, he cannot pronounce the word sausage. He just can't. He
Sausage.
can't. He can't. Like, and I will tell him the word, and then he can repeat it. And then I ask him again. So, like, say it. And he can't.
Sausage.
He cannot say it. Like, it's so funny. I make fun of him all the time.
Okay, I have to hear that, so I'm not going to embarrass him live on the show, but maybe he could send me a sound clip of how he
He'll
pronounces it.
send you a voice note
I'm,
on WhatsApp,
yeah, I'm
and
dying to hear
I'll
that.
make him do it. It's really funny.
But guys out there in viewer land, if you have any questions for Paula, please ask it in the comment box. Now, you asked me a question the other day, Paula, when we were chatting,
Hmm.
or maybe it was earlier today. You asked me what I think is the strangest word in English,
Yeah.
and um, I thought hard about that because that comes up often. I think, wow, what a strange word. Now, English is strange for one major reason, which is it's not a pure language. It evolved through history being influenced by other languages, right? Because at various times, other cultures and with different languages invaded England
Hmm.
and changed the language. So the Roman Empire dominated England at one point, and they brought Latin. The Celts from Ireland influenced English. German tribes, early forms of Germanic language, invaded England and affected it, and so did the French. So we've got
Hmm.
all these different grammar systems
Right.
mixing and spellings and all these things. My wife is a nurse, and she often tells me uh, things that happen in the hospital, medical words. Medical words freak me out because a lot of them are Latin, a lot of them
Yeah.
are, and the same with science words. A lot of them are Latin, a lot of them are Germanic, because a lot of the early research was done in advanced countries like Germany and places where Latin was used in those fields, like even in England. And there's a lot of weird words that just sound awful to me. Disease names, biological
Right.
parts freak me out. Really strange words. One word that drives me crazy is this one. And it's pronounced phlegm. Now, I'm not suggesting that my wife uses this word all the time. But, I mean, she sometimes says words about medical stuff that are really strange sounding words. So phlegm. This is, the liquid when you have a cold, you have too much liquid in your throat or your nose. Phlegm. But look how it's spelled. Phlegm, phlegm. Even if you, pronouncing it phlegm sounds a little more elegant. Oh, just a touch of phlegm. Sounds a little more elegant. But the spelling is just horrible.
Yeah.
Like, who sits there and comes up with a word? Oh, I think we need to call that phlegm. So I think medical words,
That's very weird.
biological words, they are just horrible.
In Spanish, it's the way you wrote it, like the second one, but with an A at the end.
Oh, okay. Flema. Flema?
Yeah.
See, that sounds more elegant and tasteful and beautiful. Flema. This is just awful. Crazy.
Really
That's not necessarily the strangest word. It's just the one that came to mind. It's the kind of word that I find really strange. Whenever I listen to medical talk, or when I go to the doctor and I hear these terms, they all sound horrible. Everything sounds like a horrible disease, even if it's something healthy. Is that the same in Spanish?
Yeah. Definitely.
Or do you have these dazzling, romantic, beautiful words for medical stuff?
You hear this strange word. I hear one new every day. I think one of my really close friends, she's a doctor. She just graduated, actually. And she's always sending us all kinds of articles on WhatsApp or even Instagram. She's always posting stuff. And I read it and I go, how do you not go nuts? Like, you as a doctor, you have a book, right, and there must be 20,000 new words in there, like words that you have to learn as a doctor. It just it blows my mind. I don't know how they do it. It's I have a huge respect for your wife. It's insane.
A lot of study.
Yeah. That's really.
We just have a comment here from Lenora. Paola, we have a viewer named Lenora. She's in the Philippines, and she says there the word phlegm is plema. So that's kind of similar to Spanish.
Yeah, it's instead of an F, it's a P.
Yeah.
But it's funny because that plema, for me it sounds like pluma, which is either feather or pen.
Feather, right?
Or pen. It's the same.
Oh, really?
It's the same word.
Yeah, I guess in the old days they had a feather for the pen, right?
Right. So now you use it for your everyday.
Yeah.
Spanish is really confusing because of that. There's a lot of words that can be used for 5 different things, and it's the same word.
I think that's a good point. With the feather and the pen, sometimes it doesn't make sense now, but people forget the language was around hundreds of years ago before, this kind of pen, when they used a feather to make a pen. So then it made sense. And now the context is different, so it makes no sense to us from our modern view.
I never thought about it.
Well, it's like a lot of words left over from an earlier time.
That's true.
It's the same in English. We have a lot of words that are left over from an earlier time. So if you want to understand why we use that word, we've got to go back in time.
Yeah,
it's just like now.
It makes sense.
It makes sense to call this a mouse because we grew up in the generation that used a mouse. But if we went back in time and showed people this and said, this is a mouse, they would laugh at us. Like, what do you mean? So words emerge in a cultural context, in a historical context.
I cannot even think about the word in Spanish for the mouse. I think I just call it mouse.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't think there's.
I think a lot of technology words are kind of globalized, right?
Yes, in English. Yeah. That's really interesting. And
do you have a word that you think? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, do you have a word in English that you think is the strangest? Strangest word you can remember in English?
I feel
or
like
one that makes you really.
I feel like there's a word. I know there's a word that I can never pronounce, or that I find really really hard. Let me just think about it. I think it's I cannot remember right now. God.
That's
But
okay.
what I was gonna tell you is that I was thinking the other day that what's really funny is that here we always say like goodbye, like in English you say bye, and in Spanish we always say bye instead of adios.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think it's sad.
Yeah.
I think it's sad because we have. Well, it's not sad. It's just weird because we're so accustomed to taking things from English speakers
Sure.
naturally because we're like right next door. But that's just I never say adios. I cannot even remember the last time I said it. And it's
Well, you
always
know what,
bye.
Paula? That's a really interesting observation, and I think it's important to think about it from a larger view. Because it seems sad that maybe people of your generation are losing the word adios, which is a lovely word. But it's also true that in English-speaking countries, we're adopting adios because bye is so boring.
Right.
Like
That's true.
I know people from all over the world who say aloha. Well, that's Hawaiian.
Right.
So I think the more globalized our world becomes, we're kind of evolving a global language that we're choosing the coolest words from every language.
It's true.
I kind of believe in a 1,000 years or 500 years even, or even 100, we're going to have one global language that's a mix of everything. I don't think it'll be English because I think English is changing, right? And I think what will happen though, because English is like a wiki, it has an open architecture grammar that adopts words easily. So I think English will continue to be the base, but it's going to change drastically as everyone around the world uses English, but
Yeah,
mixes in cool words from other languages.
it's gonna be picking up like little things
Totally.
from every language.
I know people English speakers that say adios, sayonara from Japan, all kinds of different
like all kinds of
additions.
words.
Yeah.
It is. That's very true. Yeah, that's very true. And I never really thought about it, but yeah, I guess I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. I never thought about like a new language evolving, which is.
I'd like to think of it as not a loss, but a gain, right? You have two
Yeah,
words you can use,
because
adios and goodbye.
you are communicating with the rest of the world in like one unified language that obviously everyone is going to understand because of the internet. It's like the word selfie. Like that's a new word, and it's like it came out on like the internet. And I can bet, well, maybe not everyone, but most people in the world will know what that means instantly.
Think so.
Yeah. So that's very interesting.
I think we do the same thing with cultures. There's certain cultural features that we're all using, right? We're all mixing in our cultures and our languages. So I'd like to encourage people not to think of cultural loss, but cultural acquisition. Yes. We don't really lose culture. What we do is evolve, which means we choose the better aspects of each other's culture and adopt them.
Exactly.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
I think exactly the same because I see a lot lately about cultural appropriation. It drives me crazy. It's silly. It's so silly because otherwise you guys wouldn't be able to have tequila. I wouldn't be able to have, I don't know, gin or
it's cultural
vodka.
sharing.
Because that would be cultural appropriation. And
well, totally.
That's not the point. Like we don't have to be selfish. Like we all know. We know where something is from, and that's as long as we acknowledge that, I think there's no loss in it because
exactly. And I think those people that are
the more we know about each other, we become more rich and
absolutely it enriches us. It doesn't diminish us. And I think the people that get accused of cultural appropriation, like the designer who adopted Japanese kimono in the US.
That was huge.
Those people are doing it out of love and admiration.
Of course. Yeah.
And in that particular case, what I found really disturbing was no one was talking to the Japanese critics and saying, Yeah, but you wear blue jeans. Blue jeans came from the US. You wear ball caps, you
Oh,
know? Men wear
sorry, Paul.
ball caps in Japan.
Can you repeat that? Sorry, I got cut
Yep.
off. The audio got cut off.
I remember seeing the article about the designer who was adopting Japanese kimono style in an American fashion and being criticized for using cultural appropriation. But in that debate, nobody was talking to the Japanese critic and saying, yeah, but in Japan, people wear blue jeans. And blue jeans came from the US. Isn't that cultural appropriation?
Exactly.
Or baseball
Exactly.
or jazz music? And what about us eating sushi in Canada? When is it cultural appropriation and when is it just
Yeah,
sharing?
it's such a,
It's silly.
especially in fashion, there's this huge debate
Yeah.
because um I mean there's such a fine line between making something identical, and I
Yeah.
think every designer tries to make it a little bit different
Sure.
they're to give their own interpretation of
Yep.
what they're creating. So, and as yes, absolutely, it's not because you are making fun of it, it's because you love it,
Yeah.
so I think it's very silly. It's very,
Yeah, it
very
is silly.
silly, and you
You
always
can't have it two
see,
ways.
I mean, there's already everything that we see in the world.
Yeah.
It's already out there. There's nothing new, I think, and the
There's
only
no
way
pure there's no
there's
pure
no pure
culture that
ideas,
exists in its own bubble.
no, and
There isn't.
all of our cultures are a mix of different things.
Totally.
So, and I think it's just very silly because
It is silly.
people get very offended, very, very offended.
People are stupid.
Oh, shit.
People are stupid.
They are.
Not viewers of a show, but there
No,
are stupid people out there who just love debating stupid
they just
topics.
want to argue. I think they're bored.
Yeah. You know, we live in a globalized world and we can't have it two ways. If we want the benefits of globalization, we have to take everything that comes with it. If we're
Yes,
going to share our cultures, we're going to borrow and share
well,
each other's
yeah,
cultures.
and yeah, of
And it works
course.
two ways.
And if you think about it this way, you're paying respect to that one
Yeah.
thing. You're giving it its space, its attention. You're doing your
Yeah.
research, and you're interested in, and you're not being ignorant.
Yeah.
Well, you can be ignorant if you don't do your research, obviously.
Sure.
But let's say people that do it correctly. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's
No.
the way we communicate and that we express ideas, and just
Yeah.
that's a very long topic. I can go on forever.
I know it's crazy.
It
Right
is.
now I'm teaching in the evenings I'm teaching a course to students in the Juilliard Music School in China.
Mhm.
And these are all classically trained musicians, young, fabulously talented musicians. And they play classical music. They're not playing Chinese music, they're playing the classics from Europe, from Austria, Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, Brahms. And the audiences there love it. And no one ever mentions that it's cultural appropriation, but it's as equally cultural appropriation as anything else. So I think it's a silly, silly topic. And I think
It just I feel like it shouldn't even be talked about. Like it's a waste
no,
of time. It's a waste of
it's a waste of time.
energy. It's like,
I
well,
think what
because
happens is we've globalized on the internet so quickly. Everyone is experiencing not culture shock, like when you travel to another country, but global shock. Suddenly they're confronted with a variety of cultural influences they never had before because we used to live in our bubbles. And people don't know what to do with them. So they're getting upset about things that are not worth getting upset about. Instead of looking at the positive aspects of
right.
being able to communicate and share with all of our cultures around the world. We already share everything. We already have a globalized economy, and it's not
Yep.
new. It started 500 years ago when the Europeans got in their ships. They've been importing spices from India for 500 years, right? No one talked about global cultural appropriation
Back
50 years
then,
ago or 100
yeah.
years ago. And no one also was upset about it because they all benefited from it.
Mhm.
So I think as long
I
as you're not,
think that's the thing. I think people get upset when somebody else is making money out of their culture.
yeah, yeah.
That's the thing, because yeah,
But they're
I
also
think,
free to borrow from your culture,
yeah, it's like,
right?
well,
We've got to allow it to
don't
go both
shop
ways,
from don't shop from H&M, don't
right?
shop from Zara, don't go to the supermarket, because you'll find like 50% of the product is going to be from elsewhere. Like that's a
I go to the
ridiculous
market
idea.
here. Yeah, I go to the market here, and there's a ton of vegetables and fruit that come from your country.
Yeah,
Am I complaining? No, I like those
I
fruits,
want it.
right?
Exactly. Hmm. Yeah,
You're right. This topic could go on forever. We'll save it for another show, Paula, but I should wrap up before my camera melts.
sounds good.
Um, it's been wonderful seeing you. It's been wonderful having you on the show.
Yeah, I loved it. Anytime. It was
Great.
wonderful.
And I want to hear that. I want to hear Oscar pronounce sausage one of these
I
days.
will.
So
I'll make him sing your voice note like right after the show. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh so hard
I look
because
forward
it's
to it.
really funny.
I look forward to it.
I bet he's practicing right now because he doesn't want to mess up.
Great. Well, give my regards to him.
I will. Will
Thank you for
do.
joining the show. I'll say goodbye
Thank you
now.
so much for inviting me. I loved it.
And
Thank you so much.
okay, take care, Paula. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Let's thank Paula for joining our show. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I had a wonderful time. Thank you all for watching and for giving
Bye,
me
Paula.
a little bit of your time.
About to wrap up, guys. I have a couple of comments here I just want to post up. Aklam has something nice to say here. My supervisor saw my writing and he said it doesn't look like it was written by an international student at all, but my speaking is just not as good as my writing because I think I'm not a talkative person. Aklam, that's fine. You know what? I'm not a good talker compared to how I write. I write much better than I speak. Some people are like that. I'm not naturally comfortable talking, even though I'm doing it right now. So don't worry about that. Be yourself. If you're a better writer than a speaker, be a great writer. Communicate with your words. Use your writing to share your ideas with the world. Thanks again to our guest, Paola Aldana. I'm just going to go through the lineup here and say thank you to everyone. If I've missed your questions this evening, guys, I will get to them. I appreciate all of you being with us. So I'll just go down the list and say hello to everyone and thank them. Tirath from Nepal joined us. Betty from the Moon. Nadim from Pakistan. Tina from Slovakia. Akash from Nepal. Jose from Colombia. Lam from Vietnam. Yoshishige from Japan. Dai from Ecuador. Oscar from Mexico. I want to hear that sausage, Oscar. Paula, of course. Jessica, also from Mexico. Someone on Facebook user. Hussein from Pakistan. Khalid, I'm not sure where you're from, Khalid. If you could tell us now, I can say thank you. Khalid is from somewhere. Lenora from the Philippines, thanks again for joining us. Aiko from Vancouver, thank you, Aiko. Malu from Brazil. And Aklam, I'm not sure where you are now, Aklam, but if I'm not mistaken, you were originally from Saudi Arabia. Is that where you are now, Aklam? Hussein's from Pakistan. Thank you. Great. Yeah, thank you all for joining the show. Next week we'll be back on Friday night. No guest next week, so we'll be able to focus all our time on getting you through some English questions. I really appreciate you being here, guys, and I really, really appreciate having Paola Aldana on the show. One of my favorite former students. Love following her career and her creative work. I'll see you next week, guys, but until then, keep learning English and stay cool.